Hey, welcome back to another video from Tiny House and Off-Grid Resources. Today I'm in Sandy the Landy and we're trundling up to the back of the farm up what at this stage is a fairly decent track, but I know that as I get closer to the top it's going to deteriorate somewhat because we've just come through another New Zealand winter and these tracks have been taking a beating from the heavy rain that we have each winter in this area. I came up here a couple of weeks ago on the dirt bike to have a look around and actually lost my dirt bike for 2 hours while I went looking for gold mines. Things have changed so much in the 20 years that I've been coming up here. The lower part of the hill was logged for pine a year ago, and they punched through new tracks and they bulldozed through some of the old tracks, so it's changed quite a bit up here. And now that the trees are gone, the gorse is starting to grow, and the landscape's quite different to what I'm used to. This was one of the skidder sites where the big hauling machines stay, where the big hauling machines worked from. They would log the lower slopes and they would drag all the logs up onto the staging area where they'd be stacked and then eventually loaded onto trucks and trundled off down the hill. There are tracks all over this mountain. There's one circumventing, no, circumference track, whatever, can't think of the word. But there's a track that goes right round the hill, and then there are numerous tracks that branch off it and take you to various places. And they serviced all the gold mines that were on this hill back in the 1880s through to about 1910 or 1912. Beautiful views of the surrounding countryside from up the top. We're about halfway up the mountain at this stage. I've just stopped for a little look around, show you some details on my scruffy old Landy, which has been fully restored underneath, but I left the body as it was. I didn't want to really make the thing look pretty. I don't think Land Rovers are meant to look pretty, but notice it's got new urethane bushes. It's had a new muffler. It's all been painted underneath and sandblasted and prepped, and the chassis has been filled with anti-rust preventatives. It's had new ball joints and new rubbers and gaiters, and yeah, I did the job on it underneath. But up top, she still looks like a crusty old Landy, just how I like it. Hey, wait a minute. That's not a Land Rover motor. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a 6-cylinder. Yeah. It's a Holden motor. It's a motor from a 1985, I think it was. 1985 VK Holden Commodore. It's a 3.3 litre 6-cylinder and it fits in here like it was meant to be. I love this motor. And mated to the back of it, it's got a lovely accessory fairy overdrive, so on the road this thing will actually do about 110 k's if your ears can cope with it. But off-road, loads of torque, great for dragging trailers full of firewood up hills and plugging through sticky mud holes. Well, here we are on top of the hill. This is the highest point on the farm, and I've brought you up here to tell you that Sandy's for sale. I've got 4 Land Rovers and I don't really have room for them, so Sandy's got to go. I've had lots of fun with this one. When I bought it, it had just been brought up from Central Otago in the South Island, so Sandy's got no rust, which is pretty amazing for a Land Rover of this age, and that's why I bought her. She's also got the factory overdrive made by Fairy and a nice Commodore Blue motor, the 6-cylinder from a VK Commodore. I gave Sandy a sympathetic restoration. I pulled the body off and sandblasted the chassis and repainted it, and attended to all of the bushes and bearings on the chassis. It's had new brakes, it's had new suspension bushes. I've done a little bit of work on some of the steering linkages, and it drives beautifully for a Land Rover. The only body work I did was stuff that absolutely needed doing, because I didn't want to disturb this beautiful patina that she's got all over her paint. So the only work it got on the body was the radiator support panel. They all rust along the bottom edge. I cut that away and completely remade the bottom edge of it, and the rear door was heavily stoved in, so I put a new skin on the rear door and attended to some rust in the bottom edge of the frame of it. The rest of the body, apart from putting this nice safari style roof rack on with some spotlights, is all I've done. It came with a set of good tyres on what they call game rims. These rims are from Australia. They're the genuine Land Rover 10-spoke game rims, which was a special package that they did in Australia. So this thing's pretty much game spec. It's got the overdrive and the big wheels and tyres and the heavy duty suspension, but it's not actually a real game. It doesn't have the flared guards that the game had. But aside from that, it's pretty much game spec, but not a genuine game. It came with a deluxe bonnet. That's the one with the rounded front and rounded edges. I had to do a little bit of mechanical work. It's had a new brake booster and master cylinder. I put a carb kit through it as soon as I got the engine running and realised that it was not going too well. And you can see here that before I got it, the original owner down in Otago had the radiator record. The headlights have a relay each to make sure that they're nice and bright, and I put a new heavy duty battery in it about 4 months ago. Inside, she's pretty awful. It is a Land Rover after all, but everything works. We've got wipers, we've got a horn, we've got headlights. It doesn't have it's got an automatic choke, so there's a hole in the dashboard where the choke cable used to be. It's got more gear sticks than anybody could wish for. There's your genuine Fairy overdrive. It's got the original Land Rover mats and tractor style pedals. The dashboard's all in fine condition. No rips, tears or cracks. This one didn't come with a heater. You can see that the door tops are pretty shot. As I say, I haven't done anything to the bodywork except what was absolutely needed. When I bought the thing, it had Axminster carpet glued inside most of the panels to keep it a little bit quieter, but it looked awful, so I pulled them out. An easy job just to put some proper hood lining material over there. The stuff that Land Rover used in the 1970s is still available today. In the back, it's pretty much what you'd expect. Short, but serviceable. I can get almost a cube of firewood in the back here if I try really hard. There's the view down to the front. Nothing much to show you here. Everything's aluminium, so of course there's no body corrosion. The dents are as you see them. There's one or two little scratches and flakes on the paint, but no actual dents. Part of that Australian game spec is heavy duty air shocks in the rear for carrying heavy loads of firewood, and down the front it's got Gabriel Red Rider heavy duty four-wheel drive shocks. I replaced the drums with brand new drums. It's got new wheel cylinders and new brake shoes all round, so the brakes shouldn't need to be touched for another 5 or 6 years maybe. She's VIN'd but not currently registered. It shouldn't need anything much of an inspection to get it back on the road. Just pay the horrendous amount of money that you have to pay and put a sticker on the windscreen. The pines up here are all across the top of the hill, and I've now gone from one side of the hill to the other, and I've got a steep descent down the other side of the hill back onto the main track. It's been a long time since I've been here. I think there's a big bog hole at the bottom here, so I'm going to have to pick my way down carefully, and then we go around a tight right-hander at the bottom here and into a bog hole. So it's going to get a little bit technical, I think, when I get to the bottom. I don't think there's a four-wheel drive out there with decent lock, but Land Rovers are just that little bit worse. The good thing is, the 88-inch, the short wheelbase, is more manoeuvrable than the 109s, the big long ones. So I wouldn't want to bring one of my long wheelbase Land Rovers through here. The little short wheelbase one's fun in the mud. In the 1880s, this track that we're driving along was actually a railway line. It was a horse-drawn tramway, and it went right around the mountain and serviced something like 20 or 25 gold mines that were all the way around the mountain. They'd pick the ore up from the individual mines and then deliver it to the processing plant at the bottom of the hill, which was water-driven. It had a huge Pelton wheel in the river that drove all the shafts and that drove all the machinery in the processing plant. It was all gone by 1914 when everybody went away to the First World War, and when they came back, every soldier that came back who wanted land was given land, so I guess all the gold miners became farmers. Just coming up here is one of the gold mines on the left. Big entranceway, goes deep into the hillside. That particular mine is about 400 metres long, with a huge stoped out area in the end where they've removed the gold. The gold wasn't found in small flecks here and there and everywhere, like in California and in Alaska. That's called alluvial gold. What we have here in New Zealand is thermodeposition deposits, and they come from deep down inside the earth and get pushed up by thermal activity. And the Coromandel, the area where I live, at one stage was a very, very active volcanic and geothermal area, and it's left behind this legacy of gold and silver. I'm sure that other areas that are full of thermal activity, like Rotorua and Hamner Springs, will one day, when they stop bubbling, be very rich in gold and silver deposits. This is a nasty bit. This is gnarly. There's a huge drop off to the right hand side most of the way along here, so no mistakes are allowed. We're nearly out now, back into the farmland again shortly. But one more feature that's coming up down here is a tunnel, and I ride through it on dirt bikes all the time, but I think it's just a little bit too tight for me to get through with my roof rack on, so we won't be going through. But the reason that tunnel's there is because there's a spur that sticks out of the side of the hill. The tunnel's straight ahead of us now. You can see the entranceway. They punch the railway line straight ahead here through that tunnel. But what we're going to do is turn to the right and go up over the hill and drop down to the other side, and then we'll look back through the tunnel again. So this is a short, sharp climb up a really clay, slippery piece. I don't think I'd get up here in the winter, not with these tyres anyway. But now that the ground's drying out, it's rutted and hard, but we're nearly there. And there's a little flat bit on the top here, and then we drop down the other side. And once again, there's a lot of rocks and ruts caused by the erosion of the water, so I've got to pick my way down here very carefully. There we go. And now we'll hop out and we'll go and have a look back inside that tunnel again. It was always fun coming through on dirt bikes because it's always flooded. There's always at least a foot of water sitting in the bottom here. There we go. Hey, there's a swallow. Now, there's a good chance that these swallows have never seen humans before because nobody comes up here except me. So I'll just slowly walk up to it and see how long it'll stay there before it decides that I'm a little bit big and scary. So thank you very much for coming up into the hills with me and enjoying my day out in the Land Rover. If Land Rovers and dirt bikes and getting out and camping in the hillside and exploring gold mines and making things and recycling things and repairing things is your style, why not subscribe to the channel? The button's down below. I'll look forward to you watching the next video.
Bye.